Hi guys, Freaky Fish Guy here. As you can tell by the title of the video, I'm going to try and start something crazy for 2020. So as you know, my channel name is The Freaky Fish Guy. I am The Freaky Fish Guy. I've got a lovely water map. I've got water tokens. I am a water person in my real life, if you know what I do. So water is my theme. Whenever I do a character tournament, so we do those in my other locals, I always pick Mecha Tsunami because he is by far my favourite anime character. And I actually made top 4 once with one of his decks, which then evolved into a water jank deck, which did really well at my locals, so I like water. So with that theme in mind, right now, I'm going to try and make the promise that for the entirety of 2020, for every tier 2 event, so every regionals and YCS I attend, I'm going to use a water-based deck. So for those who don't know, I like to swap decks quite consistently, quite regularly, just to try something new. But for 2020, I am going to stick to water decks the entirety of 1 year with one type of deck. That is going to be quite a challenge for me, and I'm going to love every second of it. So I already have quite a few water decks. The main theme, so the one I'm already playing right now, is Nekroz. A lot of people forget that this is a water deck, but I do love Nekroz. They are probably one of the most iconic ritual decks ever, if not the most iconic ritual deck. They're a water-themed deck. They have a high amount of consistency and a very good matchup against extra deck-centric decks. So things like Orcus and Salad, they're very good at playing at. They are water-themed, which means they can play funny things like White Howling in the side deck, which I am playing in my Nekroz list. Nekroz is coincidentally the list I am playing right now, using the Ben 10 engine, obviously, to search out things like Castilla and Vanity's Ruler, but that is the main deck I'm playing right now. The other options I have, we're going to go through all their like matchups and things like that later on. Other options I have immediately, Marincess. My Marincess deck is upstairs, but it's another deck that is water themed, so we've got Marincess, we've got Nekroz. Could play things like Mermail. That's another water deck. It's been a water deck for absolutely years, and obviously it's what's on this lovely mat. Thank you, Matt, for this mat. Yeah, it's another really good deck. This is second blind, second OTK variant mainly. This is a control deck. This is obviously a extra deck ritual deck. The other options I've got are frogs, which again are upstairs. Things like paleo. So you can put paleo, frogs, and Marincess together, which is what I usually ran when I ran Marincess. I took them to Chichester. I'm going to go through my options and highlight which ones have a good matchup against what and how well they should do in the next year. So obviously the first one we're going to talk about is Nekroz. So as we spoke about, Nekroz is a ritual deck. It's really consistent, it's super powerful when it goes off, and it has quite a high ceiling. However, it has fallen out of the meta for multiple reasons. It has quite a few cards that have come out that just destroy its strategy. So Ash Blossom was not out when Nekroz were pretty much tier 0 for obvious reasons. It can negate the Brionac, it can negate your Clauseless, it can negate all the incantations. Anything that make Nekroz good, Ash can stop, which is a key problem for the deck. Secondly, Call by the Grave going second. You can discard your Brio to search. They hit you with the Call by the Grave, your turn could nearly be ended then depending on your hand. So these two cards alone stop you in your tracks. Then we move on to things like Pancratops. You can make a Unicorn and make up your board. If they have a Pancratops in hand, that is immediately out your board unless you have the Trish in hand. No one's really playing Young Gear anymore, but yeah, Pancratops is immediate out to Unicorn, which is a key problem, especially against things like Orcust. Things that are good for the deck, however, Brionac itself, non-targeting destruction. You can just get rid of Thunderboards immediately. Just bounce the 2 Colossus if you have access to Brio Summon, which is amazing. Trish. And Trish, the Synchro is at, I think it's still at 1, it might have gone to 2, but Trish is a very good card. We have it in ritual form and it's a lot more searchable, so Trish is always a good card. And like we said, super key consistency. This deck I absolutely love because it can do the same thing every hand that I open for. You will be getting a deck list of this deck profile, this deck later on, but I really love Nekroz just because it is one of those most consistent decks that I've ever played alongside, obviously, Zoo. How will it fare in 2020? I don't know. Maybe they get Unicorn back to 2 or 3. I'd probably play it at 2 if I could because it is a very good power card. Although, unfortunately, having it at 1 means we never get to use its discard effect unless you're really late game. Sure, I play 2. I'm never going to play 3. It's not as good as it used to be because we also have the incantations to help with the ritual summoning mechanic. If you get Lavarval Chain and Dejin back, the deck would be busted. We're never getting those back. Maybe Lavarval Chain, but we're not really sending anything other than Sure in this deck, so we don't really want to play it. Like I said, Dejin would never come back. It's a good deck. It's got tops every now and again. It made quite a few bubbles at most YCSs, so it could be quite good in the next year if there's a nice free open meta. Moving on then to probably the next best water deck in my opinion right now, we have Marincess. There are tons of different Marincess variants out in the world. I've seen Blind Second Marincess, I've seen Marincess Paleo, I've seen Marincess Frogs, obviously you've got Marincess Striker. There are billions of Marincess variants. Obviously, it is one of the decks that has kind of been overhyped in most recent years. It has a very high price tag for those who are trying to pick it up. Obviously, I've got the whole course, so I'm quite happy. Blue tangs, I think, are now only 20 to 30 pounds each. I'm not sure. Obviously, don't quote me for dollars, guys. But it hasn't won anything key like YCS. I don't think it has any YCS tops as well. So expect that price range to drop. What it does well, it is extremely efficient. So any Marincess monster in hand becomes obviously your link 3, maybe even your link 4 with an extender. And also it makes Wonder Heart with a field spell is a towers, so it's unaffected by all card effects. Sadly though, this is not the best towers because all they need to do is remove the field spell and you lose your towers. Opposed to things like Math Mech, which just came out, which have a towers unaffected by anything, even if they remove your field spell. So key points, really good engine as well. You can play this in Mermail and in Frogs to give them a buff, and you've already got your link 3 straight away. Good removal and protection in the form of Marincess, the trap card. I can't remember its name right now. It is basically an imperm and protection card all in one, and it protects all of the monsters you control. So usually when I play Marincess Frogs, it protects the Toad as well, which is really key. Will I play it in 2020? It depends. At the moment, it's basically your worst Salamangreat for those who are trying to play this deck. They both do the same thing. They're a very link-centric deck with easy starters that are accessible. But Salamangreat do it better because of things like Salaman Roar and Rage, which are better traps than Marincess. Is it current? I'm not sure. Marincess current, the Imperm card. So at the moment, Nekroz is probably the better water deck that I'll be playing, but it is a close second, especially if they get Future Sport in 2020, which could be an option. Expect, again, a deck profile of these decks at one point. Moving on. Finally, then, I guess, Mermail. The Blind Second deck, it is very old. As you see, 2013 is obviously when this mat is from. Is it any good now? I haven't seen a Mermail top since, I think, 2018. It is kind of hurt by things like Thunder having destruction protection, so that kind of cut them off for a long time. Orcus as well, destruction protection to protect against things like heavy cavalry and marksman, etc. Also, just the fact that most decks can survive an OTK through things like Gizmek now really hurts their ability to break boards and go second. Is it a good deck to play going first? Not really anymore as well. Rank 7 spam is not as good as it once was. Things like Galaxy Tomahawk being banned. Dracosac Pass is no longer a viable thing we can do, I'm afraid, in this day and century. Red Eyes Flare Metal, meh at most. Burn damage. We're not Trickstar. We're not playing that sort of game strategy. They are all in all a go second deck, and that is not the best thing right now for this format with their effects. Go second decks are still good. Bear in mind, we've got go second Orcust with things like Mind Control. Mermail, though, they need to OTK. They cannot really make up a board other than Bahamut, Abyss Dweller, maybe a Toad, a Mistar Boy. Things like that sort of board with 1 to 2 negates or no graveyard is not that great anymore, I'm afraid. Will I play them in my Water Quest in 2020? Probably not. I may play them as an engine. So you can play 3 Abystius and 1 Abyss Spike in Marincess, and it gives you a water monster on board, which is quite easy. So there could be a small little engine. I could play Mermail Marincess just to spam out, obviously, the Link monster that Mermail recently received, which is a very good card. And obviously, the Atlantean engine, still a really, really good engine in most decks, especially with now the Deep Sea Diva support we're getting. I could mess around with just a whole water dot deck, so Mermail, Marincess, like Atlantean, Deep Sea Diva, whatever you want to call it, water dot deck. Could be an interesting thing to see. Unfortunately, I still think the Nekroz are the better water deck right now, excuse me there. But yeah, they could be a fun thing. Obviously, I don't have the cards with me right now. They are upstairs, funny enough, in my bulk, which I'm not really going to go for. But things like Paleo are still an option. So Paleo Frogs mainly is probably the better variant of Paleo right now. Most people mix them in with Marincess as it is, but as a standard option, Paleo Frogs could be a deck that I play in 2020, just because it is a very, very grindy deck that suits a slower meta. So now at the moment we've got Orcus running around, which is a very linear deck at the moment. It makes the same plays every turn. Hopefully that deck will be hit in January, and after that I'm not sure where the format will go, depending if Striker, Salamangreat and Thunder stay unchanged. It could be a wide open meta, because as we know, the decks we've got this year are not as good as last year's or this earlier year's format. So the next year format could be very, very wide, could be slower as well. So Paleo could find a spot with things like obviously Lost Wind, Solemn Judgment is now at 3. Dynamiscus is still an extremely good removal card. I'm even playing it Marincess as a one-off, not as a one-off, but as a one-off Paleo card, because it's extremely powerful. Candina no longer as powerful once was. Book of Moon, we're not dual links. Obviously it's not going to do that great, but it can still be quite a good disruption on things that are going to be link summoned. Other water decks that I can think of off the top of my head that I don't own anymore. Dynamis, obviously for a Pendulum variant, I could play, if I pick them up, a Dynamist variant of like Thunder Dragon. That made a top, I believe, at 2017 or 2018 YCS London, Dynamists. So shout out to that guy, or I think it was some sort of national somewhere. I obviously knew they topped in Zoo format, so there was hope there, but that was 3 years ago now. Phantasm Spiral for the normal monster dot deck. I absolutely loved that deck. That was the basis for my water jank, using the Pacificus field spell with Sea Stealth attack. Shout out Ollie Roberts, because you know that card. Really powerful, basically almost pseudo floodgate with a monster that can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. If it gets removed, it just comes back. Really, really good card. Phantasm Spiral Dino variant I've seen, which is really fun, using Fossil Dig to search out Megalo Smasher. That's always an option. A deck that I do have, obviously Legendary Fisherman. Probably not going to be able to top up regions with that in 2020, I'm not going to lie, unless they get some insane support like Thunder Dragon did. Obviously we've got the White Fish dot deck, which could be a thing moving forwards. Any suggestions, guys, leave a comment below. I'll be happy to talk about Any suggestions, guys, please leave a comment below. I'll be more than happy to talk about the dynamics of the water meta, if there ever is one. But these are the decks that I've spoken about today. Like I said, expect some deck profiles for some of these decks coming up, and I will update you as we go throughout the year of 2020 with how my water decks have gone. This does not mean, though, that I will not be playing with non-water decks for friendlies. Locals I will still try and use water decks to test with, but all the key events I will be going to will be using water decks. I will still be uploading videos of non-water decks, so if you still love those, obviously stick around. I'm still going to be doing things like Danger variants, Pendulum variants as well. I've not given up on Metal Foes. I still love that deck as always. Maybe if Zoo come back, I will give them a deck profile, because that's again another deck that I absolutely love. But expect more deck profiles as I go to event. Expect more vlogs from Team Chai. Our first regionals coming back, I believe, is Portsmouth or Yatton. We're both planning to go to both. One is in January, one's in February. I can't remember which one is which, but that'll also be the first event I'm running a water deck on, which at the moment, unless I can be persuaded, will most likely be Nekroz, although depending on how the testing goes, it may change. Thank you very much, guys, for watching this video. It was a little bit different, but this is the start of the Year of the Water. Goodbye, I'll see you next time.